Namaste and welcome. Welcome to Infinite. And then everything else is like, okay, Jesus, go ahead, give it to me. Where am I giving it the no? And I can see without that willingness to see the no, we've got no place to go, actually. Yes. We were talking earlier today. We watched Edge of Tomorrow, which is it's just helpful to see the play. How we like want to be in the play to work every angle so that we don't have to see that we're light. And Irene we were talking about how, yes, can we just drop it? Because after a while, we just see how tiring it is. It's exhausting. And you start seeing all the twitches, like we're a twitch factory. But, Muji also said something very helpful, that it's helpful to remember. And that is, he says, it's kind of gross, but it gets the point across. Like if you throw up on the sidewalk, you don't go back and examine all of it. That's what we like to do, look at all the no, it's just see it in the light of truth and it clears. But when we preserve those little pockets, and that's why also, even in asking, we ask Jesus, okay, Jesus, do I need to look at this? And you may be surprised to find, stay with me, just stay as the light. Like, don't invest in the no to God. Stay with me, stay with me. So there's no spaciousness for the little tree of hell to grow. And can we drop it immediately? Yes. But Jesus says you probably won't. And that's why you had to write this book. Look at this book. This book isn't about love. He said, this book, I can't tell you love. That's what we are. You are already. You can't describe what you are already. Like, that's hilarious. And you start seeing, holy smokes, when he has a line in here about what we believe, you can take that to the bank and know that you believe. It's a very focused, directed program. Otherwise, you're wandering around in the dark, really. You can see it. You see the play. You'll see it around you. It's not to judge it. It's not to judge, but you start learning, see, from the play. It helps with discernment. You don't judge it. You just go to Jesus with it. Okay, tell me about that. Explain this. Explain that. Explain this. So then we're just having a conversation in his interpretation rather than, I'm sure I'm going to die. The only thing that dies is the idea you have of yourself. Beings go up to Muji and it's so excruciating. You can see this is excruciating. Muji, I want to die before I die. That's what they mean. The idea and the concept I have, all a concept is it's just a collection of thoughts that have congealed like Jell-O. I'm an object, and then something can act on that object. But that's a big assumption, a huge assumption. It's the whole assumption of consciousness that we're objects and that, somehow cosmic dust blew out into a body. No, the mind blew out a cosmic dust and a body just to trick itself to forget what it is. That light's all there is. And you can ask him, Jesus, is light all there is? And we can hear it 100,000 times. And if there's one little scrap down there of belief in the catacomb, you never feel like light. You'll be sure that you did something wrong and be falling on your sword all day. Because you can see that desire for an experience of punishment, and we did something wrong, and it's an interesting little catacomb down there, but you don't have to take that seriously either. Like Muji says, this is excellent. Excellent. Stay as your true position. Take the true position. Assume the position until you see that's you. Till you admit it, because it's an admission. That's why we call it cease to deniement. We're dropping the word enlightenment. We're just leaving that. We're going to call it cease to deniement, because the light's already here. So it's not like suddenly the light comes in and you get a zap. That's the way consciousness plays. I'm waiting. This zap's going to come. I just know all of a sudden that God's going to like give it to me. No, God gave it to you. You're it. Period. And then we cease to deniement. Show me, and so this is, you just see the clarity in this, so just abject clarity of divine being. Where am I? Where is there a no to divine light? Can you drop it? Yes, because divine being. We made it up. We can drop it. And he says that in a new covenant too. I'm sure he said, Jesus, you say it in yes. Does he say it in A Course in Miracles? Yes. You have the power to drop it anytime, because it's here, because you can see the light's here, and drop it that quickly. The hot potato. But we like to keep that burning in our pocket, and just have it toast and roast there and go, Jesus, something, you smell the burning. And then we have an argument about whether to put it down. Your hands are like fried, but you're just going, no, no, I'm going to hold this a little longer. That's the play. I'm going to hold it because I can, just to defy God. I'm just going to hold. You see that play, boy. Do I want to usurp the power of God? Like, yes. Do I relish usurping the power of God? And just hear the answer. The light answers it. And you can't ask why. Why is the detour into hell question? The question to ask is this true? And will you show me a way to look at this? And just assume you're wrong. I'm asking Jesus, we can just assume we're wrong from the outset. That's the easiest way. I've been wrong about everything. Like what play in consciousness ever says that? The last thing that wanted to be admitted in the play of consciousness, that I could possibly be wrong. Like, that's what we're doing. We're pounding our head on the floor. I am right. I need to suffer. I. And we should be saying, ow, ow, ow. That hurts. Nothing's happening. It happens because there's nothing happening. We just like the dream a lot. We need our little cocaine hit. And then we go out with it. With all the distractions of the world. Somebody just wrote me. Yeah, they contacted me and said something was coming up. And I said, because I got a call, but we were in the movie, so I can answer it. And I wasn't. And she said, let's see if I can find it. I said, did you call me? And she said, yes. In a moment of panic, I talked to a mighty companion. I'm feeling better. The province I live in was saying that we could be isolating for 18 to 24 months. Displays out. The good time to go in to study the course even deeper and talk to Jesus. That's plenty of time. Just have a deep conversation with Jesus about the course. And go through every sentence. Is this true, Jesus? Show me where where I believe this. What about this? What about that? And we can do it Always. We can wake up right now. It's just Jesus knows how consciousness loves the slot machine. It likes to invest. Like, you have a higher probability of winning the slots in Las Vegas than we do winning with the game of the ego, but we still like to play the slots, the ego slots. In that case, the house does win every time. Every time. But the addiction, I'm just going to put my nickels in one more time and just see if I can feel love by playing the nickels. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. But love just, it's been said, love happening. Just love ising, just isning, just isness, just is. There are just no words. The happiest in words, there are no words. When you see your brother as infinite light and know, that's all there is. That's you. So we've been continuing with the teacher's manual. I love this class because this is for me, and it's called the direct experience. I don't know about all of you, but I just feel like every student, there isn't a student that doesn't want the direct experience. And Jesus reminded me, sometimes the very wanting of it prevents it. Because that's a seeking too. And any kind of seeking, you have to drop the seeking. Drop the seeking. You can't seek to see what you already are. You just have to be willing to be shown the thousand suns, meaning the brightness of divine being within. That's why the spiritual traditions emphasize, and Advaita Vedanta emphasizes, drop every idea. Mooji says, leave your shoes outside, leave your mind, the wrong-mindedness outside. Come and sit and rest. Drop every idea, marinate on that. You're marinating as that, because otherwise it becomes an ego project to But even with that, if all the thoughts are dropped, because we can, and just notice what's here before thought. What's here before thought? It's a good contemplation. Is it an object? Is time known before thought begins? Could time be known without thought? It's even an idea that time can be known, but we'll use that kind of language. Is anything here other than light and the truth and honesty of God? Infinite? Does infinite have like a bookend that says, here's the beginning and here's the end? Is it like a little bookend, infinite light? Does it have a beginning? Here's your starting point. Start here. And then does it have like a little race going on to get to the end point? It just isness. Just is. Does it know what birth is or death? This is a good voice to get to know, this one, the one that answers. Does the light know a beginning or end? Does it know what a person is? Personality? Does it know anything divided or separate, or just is? It's just ising. This is. Does it have sounds or color? Is it an object? Something knows that. It's not, an ego can't know what that is. Ask Jesus. Jesus, can the ego answer those questions? What's answering that? Superconsciousness, the part of ourselves that can't totally obscure. You can partially obscure it in consciousness by the fractionation, you call it, the separation of the idea of a subconscious mind, what's hidden below our awareness, and superconsciousness, which remembers. And even with that, you can see beyond both superconsciousness and subconscious mind, because the light can be recognized as here already. All the bifurcations in consciousness, the fractionations, cannot totally obscure the light from awareness. Because we can just look and see, like, again, my 7-year-old niece. I just realized Dyra's not. Oh, yes, she's on. Okay. Get with the program here. Okay. So we just query on the light, and that's really what was so helpful. Because the realization comes, you can query on that light and recognize, oh, there's only light here. Wait a minute. There's something infinite. Even if you can't say, oh, that's me. Because the whole ego is going to say, you're not that. But that's the voice we trust. Like if we ask Jesus, Jesus, am I the light? You can ask him that 1,000 times and find he would never tell you anything other than that. But we would listen to the wrong-minded voice going, you're not light. I'm not light. God, I'm not light. Where's the light? Can I find the light? I'm never going to be the light. That's the voice that we listen to. You're never going to be the light. It's impossible to wake up. Which voice is that? We have to learn the discernment. You'll see it's not possible not to wake up. It's just not possible. It just, it's, you're lit by the fire of God. It's a big assumption that you can't awaken. That's a big assumption. It's called hell, really. Like I'll never wake up. That's the play in consciousness for the desire for the experience to feel like it's difficult or hard to wake up. So a really good one, that to join on right out of the gate with Jesus and with a brother and go, okay, go ahead and give it to me. I already know it's there because I'm not awake yet. Not yet. I'd have a desire not to be awake. But then querying on that voice, that's when it just like crystallized. It was like, wait a minute. The light's always here. There hasn't been a time that I've looked at the light's not here. So if it's not in awareness 24/7, you look down at this book right here. What does Jesus say? It's because you desire not to see that it's here all the time. Okay, now let's start with, let's just look in here and see the myriad of ways that consciousness is going to play. And then you will go, well, that's really overwhelming. I can never look at all that. But Jesus is going, no, look, I'm going to save you a lot of time. Again, I'm going to save you a lot of time. You kind of get it because you read the Course in Miracles and you've been taking the daily lessons and now you can understand. So now I'm going to coach you one-on-one. And I'm going to show you. I mean, who gets that kind of coaching? We're going to turn down the coaching to Jesus. I'm going to show you every place in the subconscious mind where you're denying that you're light. And the way he shows us is not only in the contemplative listening, okay, you're light. And then, okay, Jesus, where's my desire not to experience myself as light, but also in the assignments. Because the assignments reveal where we deny light to ourselves. And so, as I said yesterday, I'm trying to think of how many assignments where I felt just a huge amount of enthusiasm over. that there wasn't some kind of I'm going to die thought, you know. But when you say yes, then you get those, and the beings would talk about it too, the reflections that came. They'd say, no, you know, you're going to see, you will see how carried you are. That you have to believe, it's beyond belief, but you can start with belief in yourself as divine power. Say yes to light and go. But until you take that step, see, the ego is always going to say, don't go there, don't, and it's going to wah, wah, wah. It's going to be the Starship Enterprise. That's what why he says, I will make no decisions by myself. And then if you're upset, you talk to him about it. I must be wrong. Just if you're upset, assume you're wrong. That is like, that's the fastest way. He's saying the fastest way is if you're upset, assume, okay, I'm wrong. That's the fastest way. And then have him direct, you know, because you will start noticing every twitch. You will notice it. That doesn't mean like you got to look at every single thing. You just have to go to him first and go, okay, do I need to look at this? Yes, no. You handling this? What do I need to see? Then he's got the whole thing. He's got the whole plan. His plan can go fully in place then. We're not telling him how we're going to wake up. Okay, Jesus, what is the peace of God? This is a good thing, because the first thing to ask him on this is, Jesus, do I actually know what peace is? And just hear his answer. Do I actually know what the peace of God is? That's where I really have to admit, that's honesty of God. Like, because the ego has a concept of what peace is. You know, peace is sitting on the lily pad going like this. Jesus is talking about who you are, like identity. He's not talking about the if-then piece of the ego. I will be peaceful if. I will be peaceful when. I can go off over here with Jesus and see this from, no, you just see the trick in that. No, you can see that you're infinite light right here, right now, this minute. It's not necessary to go off somewhere to look. You can look right here, like Muji, when you go up and sit up in front, or you go to satsang and he says, who are you? Which voice is speaking? You can be sure when it's the voice that says, I'm going to go off somewhere and do this. Most of the time, you can hear the energy and the sound, the way it comes out, who's speaking. There's an energy to it. Muji would call it, there's a smell to it. It's not to judge it. There's no judgment. There's just discernment. Is it holding on to something, hiding from something, pushing something away? Because the light just doesn't have that kind of energy. It just is. It doesn't reject anything. It's accepting everything in its fullness, in its totality. What is the peace of God? It has been said that there is a kind of peace that is not of this world. How is it recognized? How is it found? And being found, how can it be retained? Let us consider each of these questions separately, for each reflects a different step along the way. Okay, Jesus, thank you. First, how can the peace of God be recognized? I want to really get this. I don't want to miss, and I don't want to miss a thing. Okay, sit back, pull up the Fireside Chat, and see what Jesus has to say here. Okay. God's peace is recognized at first by just one thing. In every way, it is totally unlike all previous experiences. That is as usual, he's right on point, right, for us, because the ego lives for objective experience. See, the light's beyond that. Light doesn't know what experience is. You can ask the light. So we'll just notice infinite light of being. And you'll see that the light itself is beyond all previous experience. It calls to mind nothing that went before. In the light of divine being, does it call to mind anything that went before? It doesn't think about it. There's no reference in there. There's no reference for what goes beyond. It brings with it no past associations. It is a new thing entirely. There is a contrast, yes, between this thing and all the past, but strangely, it is not a contrast of true differences. The past just slips by, and its place is everlasting quiet. In its place is everlasting quiet. And we can just hear in the light, the quiet. Infinite light of being. Is it quiet? See, the ego just jabbers on it, just jabbers and jabbers. It's a little beehive, bzzz, this constant hum. Only that the contrast first perceived is merely gone, has merely gone. Quiet has reached to cover everything. So that's question one. Question two, how is this quiet found? Ego has its own idea, but that's not true. We have to really listen to Jesus on this one. So, okay, Jesus. No one can fail to find it who but seeks out its conditions. God's peace can never come where their anger is. See, this is how the ego works. This is what it says. I'm not at peace. Why am I not at peace? Well, that question right there in that immediate, and I'll never feel at peace. That's the ego in play right there. We can't find it without dropping that energy. That's the energy of denying the light. For anger must deny that peace exists. Who sees anger as justified in any way or any circumstance proclaims that peace is meaningless and must believe that it cannot exist. And you will hear this in spiritual circles talking about anger. Well, some types of anger is justified. Jesus, no anger is justified. And if you believe that it is, it's going to show up somewhere in your timeline. If you have one scrap of belief that anger is justified, it'll be somewhere. It'll pop up like a whack-a-mole. God's peace can never come where anger is, for anger must deny that peace exists. So that is a play in consciousness, particularly like when we have a seeing, when we see that there's peace here, and then the ego plays, it gets angry because it sees that the peace is there, and it pretends to be angry because, well, why am I not feeling peace? But that's because the ego's involved already. It's already in the play. It's the wrong-mindedness speaking. Peace doesn't get involved in that play of consciousness. In this condition, peace cannot be found. So that's the play in consciousness. To try to keep anger, it's going to say, you know, I see this, but there's a tension to it. When it's seen all the way through, it's like, oh my God, that's hilarious. I'm so glad that didn't happen. You know, that's the seeing all the way, the full penetration, to see that it was a choice in consciousness. There's no grievance under it. But the play in consciousness is, oh, I see this. I completely see this. I see that I've done it. But you can just, there's like an energy of anger under it. We're still projecting on ourselves rather than going, oh my gosh, it never happened. See, there's still a belief that makes it real, that something actually happens. What we see and what's perceived that seemed to happen, the only purpose is to see it, is to see its non-existence. That's what true seeing is seeing its non-existence, the admission that it's not existent. For what except attack will lead to war, and what but peace is opposite to war. Therefore, forgiveness is the necessary condition for finding the peace of God. That is a really strong play in consciousness, to really hold on to that grievance and not fully release it. Here, the initial contrast stands out clear and apparent. Yet when peace is found, the war is meaningless. And see that you have to get to, that's the full release, to see that the war is meaningless, the war within. That is the only peace. The only peace is seeing that the war is meaningless. And it is conflict now that is perceived as non-existent and unreal. That's really the gig right there. It's like, okay, Jesus, show me that the conflict is. Am I willing to see that conflict is non-existent? Admit that. Because without that admission, okay, so first we ask him, am I willing to admit that the conflict is non-existent? And if he says, no, you're not willing to admit it, then you just work with him. That it's unreal. That's the key. It's when you get under that death wish and go all the way down. And again, the reason these things persist is because if there's still a desire or belief that heaven is in the desire, heaven's in saying no. And that's just avoidance of seeing that it's not real. How is the peace of God retained once it's found? Returning anger in whatever form will drop the heavy curtain once again, and the belief that peace cannot exist will certainly return. So it's really the veil of anger. You know, the spiritual traditions say, well, how come I can't see it? And then actually get mad because we can't see that we're light, because there's a desire for that veil over the truth, over light. War is again accepted as the one reality. And that's another thing. I could see that in the play, that the conceptual view of awakening and what the light should be is, it's always an insistence that the light's not here. So we just have to stop insisting that the light's not here and just be the light. That's the easiest way. So then it comes in that, you know, you'll see, and you'll hear this in satsang too. It's really helpful because you can see how it plays. Again, not to judge it, but you can see that beings will come up in satsang and they'll go, okay, I can see that there's light, there's infinite light, and there's no limit. But it seems like a veil comes over it, and I can't really see it anymore. Part of that is just not inquiring again, clearing the denials, and clearing all the energies that give the false perception that we're not light. Now you must once again lay down your sword, although you do not realize that you have picked it up again. But you will learn, as you remember even faintly now, what happiness was yours without it, that you must have taken it as your defense. Stop for a moment now and think of this. Is conflict what you want, or is God's peace the better choice? And as he said, it's always what we value. So if we value the peace of God, then we'll find that. You can't avoid it. I mean, we can pretend, but it's identity. You can't escape it. Jesus, do I have any chance at all at escaping light, that I'm light? You can hear him, no. Is conflict what you want, or is God's peace the better choice? Which gives you more? A tranquil, not, here it is. Yeah, David says this all the time, and here it is right in the Course. A tranquil mind is not a little gift. It's everything. It's all that's given by the Father, actually. Would you not rather live than choose to die? Living is joy, but death can only weep. You see in death escape from what you made, but this you do not see, that you made death, and it is but an illusion of an end. Death cannot be escaped because it is not life in which the problem lies. This is little life. Life has no opposite, for it is God. You are it. You are life itself. Life and death seem to be opposites because you have decided death ends life. Forgive the world, and you will understand that everything that God created cannot have an end, and nothing he did not create is real. In this one sentence is our Course explained. Forgive the world, and you will understand that everything that God created cannot have an end, and nothing he did not create is real. Thank you, Jesus. So we just keep joining and looking. Joining is that solvent. It's the solvent to dissolve the idea that we're separate. To dissolve the idea that there's anything other than light. So we just keep joining. Thank you, Jesus, for bringing us together. We love you. And I'll just mention for everyone that we now have a Spanish Facebook page that Dyra and Melissa are working on, and we really thank them for that. We're very grateful for our Spanish brothers and sisters that join us and bring their devotion, such deep devotion to God with them as a reminder. And as a reminder, it's really beyond language. You know, there've been various reflections about, well, you know, it takes a long time, or this is really slow and we have a translation, or however that plays. But Jesus has taken us beyond language, and he's showing us that we're one, regardless of the language. So yeah, we'll have some specific programs for those that speak Spanish. And of course, you're always invited to join. Because we're really seeing, we're brothers, you know, we're in this together. We can't go without each other. So thank you for that, Jesus. We love you.